if you don't have your health, you have nothing. And I'm going to be sharing with you some important information that once the hour is up, there's going to be a significant shift in the way you think about it. It's not like anything you've heard before. So please trust me and make sure you understand that that's what this is all about, and trust the process and really be open to what you can gain. So at this time, I'm going to be sharing my screen with you so that you can see exactly what I am talking about. So here we go. And you guys can hear, or you guys can see my screen. So hopefully everything is good here. For those of you who don't know me, I've lived with autoimmunity for 21 years. And I didn't know until probably about 5 years ago that I was living in this victimhood, although I was always doing things. And I was really confident in my ability, in my knowledge, intellectually to heal, right? I had all the information, but I realized the surface level information that you do over and over again never truly heals you from the inside. And so that's really what we're going to be talking about today. The topic of the presentation is called Think, Act, and Be Healthier Than You Ever Thought Possible When You Learn to Control Your Mind and Your Emotions. How many of you guys can raise your hands and tell me that there are emotionally taxing things in your life due to autoimmunity, or even prior to autoimmunity, that there's been some emotional struggles, mental struggles. There's been significant mental stress in your life that you probably think might have triggered it, but the doctors don't mention it. So you shrug your shoulders and you dismiss it as if it's something that is completely separate from your somatic experience. There's going to be a lot of vocabulary that I use with you. Psychosomatic just means that what we think really does have an impact in our physiology. Somatic is our physical functioning. So physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health need to be integrated. You're not separated, right? And most of you coming to this webinar today have been separated. Your head is overthinking, overanalyzing, and over everything. It's up here. And then while your body is falling apart, the signals that your body's been trying to give you, you didn't pay attention. It's been giving you signals for years and years and years through having fatigue, a little bit of pain, aches and pains, digestive issues, hair falling out, rashes, and the likes, but you've sort of ignored it until it became a problem. And then what do? You go to the doctors, and what do? They give you exogenous medications and such. And then if that medication works temporarily, great, good for you. But if it didn't, then there is secondary medication to offset the side effects from the first medication, right? And that hamster wheel is never sustainable, is what I had to learn the hard way. So, as I said, 21 years of living with autoimmunity, I got really sick many times. I've come so close to death as well. And I always struggled with being overly analytical. I was in this constant pattern of self-sabotage in the name of health and wellness. And health and wellness was all about looking the part, looking fit, being a certain size, and being a certain number, right? And all those things. Never really cared about how I really felt on the inside. It was all about how I presented to the outside. Being an immigrant with no English when I was just 11 years old gave me a lot of, or not gave me, but I had a lot of lack of confidence. I never felt good enough. And so in my household, which is an Asian household, you're never good enough. You have to try harder, do better, get straight A's or else. And this perfectionistic mindset, because my parents worked really hard and they believe hard work pays off. And so I was a doer, but I didn't know that all my doing and achievements in school and everywhere else was killing me on the inside. It really burnt me out. And through a place of not having enough confidence, I made some bad choices, right? I was chronically pleasing other people in the name of believing that I'm confident, right? I looked confident, I looked the part, all those things, but I never really understood who I was on the inside. I was just trying to please everybody else, and fit in was the biggest thing, driver, right? No English, culturally, I was different. So I felt like everybody else had way 11 years ahead of me. So I just had so much to catch up on. And that was where I was living from, right? And I want you to really, really pay attention to what I'm saying, because I sprinkle in my personal story, not just to like overindulge in my own personal story, because as I tell my own story, you can reflect back to yourselves to say, that might be what it is. Because what I hear the most from my patients is I'm able to really ask the question that no other doctors or practitioner were able to ask them. I'm the one who puts together truly who you are and all your malalignments and all your limiting beliefs. And I bring everything up to the surface and I challenge you with those beliefs and interpretation and stories that you're holding on to. And we have to undo a lot of that. The healing process involves really a lot of revelation, lots of growth and awareness. And it's what I call the inner awakening for you to finally come home to you. And this is more about changing your perspective at the deepest layer of being so that you can truly tap into the miraculous healing that lies dormant all these years within you. You'll learn all about changing the way you think and how that affects your physiology. It's about unlocking your powerful healing potential that will transform your life as you know it. And I want to give you things to truly shift your mindset and concretize as best as you can and apply it in your health. We'll talk about ways of being the kind of person you need to be in life to achieve the health you want. Being, not doing, but being the person you need to be is where it's at, okay? So we're going to go ahead and go on here. Okay, so this is what most of you guys are doing. You try a little bit of supplements, you try a little bit of diet, you try the paleo diet, you try the keto diet, intermittent fasting, take a little supplements here and there. You know that you think it's helping you, but you're not quite sure. Here's the thing. Most autoimmune patients gain slow healing, but we can't afford the time to lose. They all try, and I was one of them. They all try the things only to get marginally better. And if you're improving your health only 10% every year, your sickness will ultimately catch up with you because it's like a fire, right? Autoimmunity is inflammation at the core, especially when you're going through a flare. You can't expect to get a step away from the medication. Sometimes you need the medications. It's like you have to knock out the fire and then get better, right? But you have to do both. And nobody really knows how to navigate the two territories because what are we told? You've got autoimmunity, I've got lupus, Sjogren's, right? And it's not curable is what I was told the first day, right? And they said, forget it. This is the medication you're going to be on for the rest of your life. There's no buts about it. It's a disease we don't know where it's going to go. There was just a lot of fear in the voice of my doctor. Okay, so I too was puttering along doing all the things that experts recommended out of fear, but it was a slow process with no alternative. And I was so frustrated. It wasn't until I was able to really realize the internal work, how I was always perpetuating this feelings of sickness, the thoughts that came up over and over again, that I had to reset my hardware to change my software, which is my physiology. And that's really the secret that I want you to really recognize and really open your eyes because that's where it's at. Your health only gets marginally better, right? Because if you look at this diagram, the reason why you only get marginally better is because you keep trying to change your behavior. We're always trying to do the diet. We're always trying to take the medications. We don't ask ourselves who we are being. Instead of transforming your mind, your identity, your habits, you look right in front of you and you look at everything else to guide what you should do because that's the conditioning, right? this diagram shows you it's a neuro-linguistic concept founded by Gregory Bateson back in 1957. And he was a social scientist and psychologist. And he talks about how human beings work from the inside out, right? We have to work from identity, thoughts, feelings, and actions to create the results in our lives. And yet, most of us are looking to external things outside of us to make us feel and define who we are. So I work with many patients when I ask them, it wasn't until they went through the transformation process that they truly knew who they were. Nobody ever asked them who they were. And so with tears in their eyes, they don't know who they are. So you have this breakdown moment of, oh my gosh, whose life was I living? It wasn't mine, but it was to satisfy everybody else, whether it be your mom, your kids, your parents, your peers, or your coworkers, whatever. Because from the early age, we're told to do, and be. And there's standards to be, right? That's what we're taught. Standardized testing, standardized education. Look at what's happening in the world today. Like, we are the masses being controlled by all the fear of COVID right now, for example, right? And so this is how we're conditioned to believe. Experts know the best, so we just have to wait for the information. But I want you to really get into challenging the status quo, asking questions, and really tapping into what feels right for you intuitively, your gut feeling. And I know it sounds like a cliche to listen to your gut, but so how do you listen to your gut? Well, you have to silence your mind, the distractions, to really tune into yourself. Because the truth is, every day that you wake up, you have feelings of sickness. You're repeating the same thoughts, same feelings, doing the same thing. Everything's on autopilot. And remember, everything in life is energy. What you'll learn here is to harness the energy as a channel that you can control to shift into healing. If you don't shift this, then it doesn't matter what you do. Is why I want to work on the foundation. I want to work on the roots of who you are to really define what you need to be, right? And so this is the model that I created. It's called the alkaline methodology, right? And I realized through working in functional medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, as well as conventional medicine, if it's holistic and if it's going to help me, I've learned it. I've gotten certifications, I've gotten the education, and I've gotten the degrees, right? But then I realized nobody was putting it all together. I was getting confused, right? I only had pieces of the puzzle. And every time I bought into a dogma, for example, traditional Chinese medicine, they said it was all about the meridians, about the energy flow. You go to Ayurveda, they talk about all the body types, right? The doshas, right? And then when you talk about functional medicine, it's all about the diets and it's all about the supplements, elimination diet, and being scared to eat. And so nobody really puts together all of you, right? Because what works for me is not going to work for you. There is no standardization. You need to come into you. And unless you learn to read what your thermostat is telling you, there's no way in hell that your doctors can know better than you about what you're feeling on the inside. So it really comes down to who are you, right? And so the alkaline transformational method, the work is in the inner awakening with its 3 pillars. And then whatever is going on the inside is the outer manifestation. So we're going to learn that today. Your health is really a reflection of what's going on the inside, right? You are ultimately responsible. Not your fault, but you are responsible. You are playing into it without you even knowing it, is why I want to wake you up. The third element of the alkaline methodology that I utilize is the modern medicine piece. You'll know a little bit more about my background and my education, but there is a lot of functional medicine that I employ or deploy, as well as nutritional interventions and all the scientific evidence-based stuff, but it's only 25%. And then we go into ancient wisdom, like understanding energy, right? Quantum healing, meditation and hypnosis, the mindset, and then the practice of yoga. Yoga stands for your opportunity for growth and abundance to heal, really truly believing in your ability to heal. So let's think or talk about quantifying healing. How do you quantify healing, right? The premise that we work from is that our bodies are miraculous and are always trying to heal from the inside out. So for many of you, it might take you 10 years to decrease your symptoms, which is time you just don't have. You can't afford to waste that kind of time. I mean, you should be healing at 30, 40, 50% a year so that the healing gets way ahead and then the sickness sort of succumbs. So you have to be powerfully healing. And that powerful healing is only possible when you're self-empowered from the inside out, not waiting for direction, because then you'll never know. You're at the mercy of circumstance of whoever provides, and you're taking a passive approach. And that's not the way I want you to live, right? It's not successful. It's not sustainable. I observe many people who are trying every day, putting in a lot of effort, but aren't receiving the results that they want. They're doing all the diets, they're taking all the supplements, they're scared to eat. They don't do anything out of the ordinary, but they live in fear. And then they go back home to a very bad and disruptive marriage, and their relationships are struggling. So of course there is that stress, but then they're like, no, but I'm eating healthy, so I should be healthy. But no, the perpetuators of your thoughts, how that's creating the physiology for sickness, is something we need to look at. No doctor asks you that. Or at best, they might tell you, go to therapy and talk it out, right? But that's not helpful either, I found personally, is why we're talking about what we're talking about. It's because you're more concerned with what you're doing than with who and how you are being. So I really want you to be who you're meant to be. Truly step into who you are and be living from full alignment of the authentic self, right? So who am I, right? I'm Dr. Connie, and I was diagnosed with lupus 21 years ago. And it wasn't until probably about 4 or 5 years ago when I started to have a lot of angst and a trigger where I blew up. I came undone and I really exploded, and with my family, specifically my mom and my twin sister. And I realized there was just a lot of wounds that didn't heal. And then it forced me, because I didn't know where it came from, but it really nearly killed me because I was in the hospital bed with not a lupus flare, but it was some mysterious thing where it really struck my immune system at the core. And they thought I had leukemia or aplastic anemia. And they told me to get my affairs in order. And that's when I transitioned and transformed everything in the way I looked at it. I needed that wake-up call. So for that, I'm eternally grateful. But as I look at my past, something I dismiss, right? Because I don't like to talk about my problems. I don't like to bring attention to the negative things. I like to repress them. But I realized I have a lot of trauma in the past, and I won't get into it here, but I just want you to understand that there was just a lot within all my accomplishments, right? I have a doctoral degree, I have my master's degree, and I have my bachelor's degree, and I kept studying and getting more certifications and more certification. I'm double yoga certified at the 500 level, experienced yoga teacher, functional medicine practitioner through the Institute of Functional Medicine, and then all the didactic trainings that you see here through cranial sacral therapy. I went to Loma Linda for all my doctoral level studies. And then I became certified in dry needling, acupuncture, and all the things that I can't even begin to mention. But these were all the doings. I wanted solutions to provide for the other people because it was large part driven by my need to have the answers for me. Highly analytical. So I think I needed something that was logical in my mind when I was driven by completely illogical reasoning, really stemming from I'm not good enough, I'm broken, I have to try harder, I have to be perfect, right? And I know as an autoimmune patient, what is required to regain your health, and it's not what you think at all. It's not another diet. It's not anything else that you think, right? It involves your healing mindset and you tapping into it ultimately. And you don't have right now healing mindset if your health is declining. You have a sick mindset and it's completely subconscious. You're unconsciously perpetuating the sickness without even knowing it. And that's what I'm hoping through the energy that I put forth through this presentation, that you really understand that. So psychology, physiology, immunology, they're all linked, just like mind, emotions, and physical, spiritual, they're all linked. We can't separate them, right? And in the field of conventional medicine and holistic medicine, integration is what's lacking for autoimmune patients. When we seek options to feel better, we don't know what we're looking for exactly. What did you think, right? All I wanted to do was feel better, but I didn't know what my future meant. And when my doctor told me it would be incurable, that I would have to rethink having kids, getting married, all the things, and everything that I read 20 years ago, there was no internet. And it said that lifespan for a lupus patient was 10 years. So what? That meant that I was going to die in 10 years? I didn't know what that meant. And so I didn't even know what I was looking for. And I know many of you guys are here not knowing what you're looking for. What are you truly looking for? And I ask yourself, right hand over your left heart, left chest, where your heart is, ask yourself, do you really believe you can reverse your autoimmunity? That's the number one question. Chances are, deep-seatedly, you have a lot of doubt. And when you have doubt, you're going against, you're not in alignment. And so you might do all the things to help your body, but then internally, if you're not aligned, that's never going to stick, right? And that's really the premise that I want to really talk about. Because how can we, right? We are told by doctors that we have an incurable disease, or that they don't know what the diagnosis is, right? When you become sick and struggling with physical symptoms, it will spiral you downward, right? And this is when we must stop looking outside of us and look within ourselves to finally take responsibility for our own health. Because I found after 21 years of studying with the best of the best, Ivy League grads and medical doctors and all the best of the best, rubbing shoulders in trainings, I realized they don't know. They don't know what they don't know. And so this requires your discernment. It requires you to be wise, and it requires you to tap into your inner guidance, something we were never taught. Right? Because your health is 100% reflection of who you are as a human being. Whatever mental limitations you have, you take with you to create or sabotage your health. And if you don't uncover these hidden tendencies that you have, you'll never get well, I promise you. And most people believe that their health is all about medications, diet, supplements, treatments, exercise, medication, and everything else we identify with health. But what I truly want you to understand is that your health is a direct reflection of who you are as a person, and being refers to how you think, how you feel and act, and create the results in your life, as well as your filters for the way you look at your life, right? As a result, the results you achieve in your health and life are a direct reflection, like I said, of you as a person. And so most autoimmune patients, they're sick and broken and need to do, or they think they're sick and broken and need to do all the things. But what they don't realize is that whatever mental limits they have, they bring them to their approach in life. And because they go searching for solutions from the experts and doctors, thinking the solution is outside, that in itself is the victim mindset. Okay, I need help, right? I need help versus I can help myself. That's empowered versus I need help. It's the victim mindset. And I'm not saying don't ask for help, right? That shows strength and vulnerability. Victimhood and vulnerability, two very different things. And I personally think vulnerability is overused too. And it's almost like, are you self-pitying yourself, or are you truly being vulnerable to gain something out of it? You need discernment. You need wisdom. You need inner guidance. You need to be able to tap into it, because no longer do we live in a world where we can be superficial. And it's not about what I say. You're going to be more interested in what I do, how I show up, right? And that puts forth the energy by which whether you decide whether you can trust me or you shouldn't trust me, right? And that's the difference. What are you identified with, right? When somebody asks you, who you are, do you say you're a autoimmune patient? Because that's an identification. You're already identified. So you should say your name and what you do, right? And the diagnosis is separate from you. You're not the disease, right? You're the thinker of the disease. So I want you to separate your disease from yourself, right? Stop identifying yourself as a sick victim. I want you to start to identify yourself as a self-empowered healer. And we must change the perspective, because then from that place of being self-empowered, all the things that you do all of a sudden gains momentum. And then you start to improve 30%, 40%, 50%, become 60, 70, 100% cured, as opposed to 1 foot in, 1 foot out, constantly in doubt, self-sabotage over and over and over again. Take a few steps forward, take many steps back, few steps forward, many steps back. And then you tell yourself, doctors are right. It's incurable. That's how I lived my life for the first decade of my lupus journey. And that didn't really work. Think about how you're showing up in your everyday, in your life. What are the obstacles to your health and wellness? And subconsciously, there's a lot of reasons why you believe you can't do something. It might be, oh, I don't have her education. I don't have long hair. My hair is falling out. I'm sicker than she is, right? We have all the reasons as to why we can't do something. And it's the limiting beliefs that you hold about yourself that's keeping you back and keeping you small. And my program is all about unleashing all that for you to come out to be fully confident and aligned with who you are, no matter what, so that your body can start to heal itself. So I want you to know the God connection between the brain, mind, and thoughts, right? Your thoughts about you are the characteristics, right? And characteristics and ways of being, what does it involve for optimal health, right? As I shared with you, I grew up in a strict Asian family. There's some cultural norms and conditioning that I didn't agree with, but forced to accept as my own truth. For example, my mom never went to college. Women didn't have the same rights as men in Korea after the Korean War. And she was forced into an arranged marriage with my dad. And she was unhappy and lived her life vicariously through her kids. And she always, like I told you, pushed me to do better, to be better, try harder, always effort, 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 do or die, right? That was the mentality that I lived by. And the interpretation I made as a young girl was that I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I must do to be worthy. So I'm constantly overworking, overthinking, perfectionistic, and I have to be. There's no other way, right? And that drove me to my sickness, is my conclusion. And that living from that place, perfectionism and control, was how I lived my life to mask my insecurities. I had everything planned out, right? Until lupus sent me off the rails. It wasn't until I learned, like I told you a few years ago, that I had deep-seated self-loathing, self-betrayal, and self-disregard. I began to pay attention to the conversations I was having with myself. And it was the meanest thing ever. And I didn't want me as a friend, right? And I just wanted to reveal that for you so that you ultimately understand self-love is the ultimate path to your inner awakening. And it's absolutely necessary, because if you don't have self-love, you're not going to want to take care of yourself. So let's talk a little bit about science about the brain. This image is from the study conducted at the Max Planck Institute in Germany. What they found out back in 2008 is that we all operate on brain autopilot. Brain autopilot. Brain is physiology, right? It's not the mind. It's not the psychology. It's not your thoughts, but it's your brain, right? You think you're making decisions, but you're not. They discovered that your brain makes up 95% of your decisions already for you. In fact, you're watching this, you may like me right away, or you may hate me. You don't even know why. Because your brain just, based on your past experience, it might be something that you like or you have affinity, you dislike, and that decision is already made, right? We're all literally working from a unconscious brain autopilot. 90% of it's already made for you, right? When you're on your autopilot, most of the decisions you make is not based on conscious reasoning. You're not logical, but you're illogical. We do things without knowing why. And your brain has you operating on autopilot. It's how we've evolved to make things more efficient. And you don't consciously make decisions. We don't even know why we do what we do. Your brain is operating on autopilot. This is Dr. Puget from University of Rochester. His research proves that most of your decisions aren't based on conscious reasoning. And when people reason why we do what we do, we assume we know why we do what we do. And we really refute our decisions after the fact, right? So I want you to understand the 3 levels of your brain, right? At the base, it's the reptilian brain. It's the oldest part of the brain. And then there's the mammalian brain, which is the emotional part of the brain that came after reptilian. And then there's the prefrontal cortex, which is the analytical part. That's the neocortex. That's the newest part of the brain. But in truth, we don't even realize what we are rationalizing when we make decisions. We do rationalization after we make the decision. And the bottom line is that your brain has you functioning on autopilot, right? It's automatic when it comes to your habits. And your habits create results in your life. And so we're going to talk about habits a bit, because your habits are controlled by little small part of the brain. And that little part of the brain is called the reptilian part of the brain. And it is really, really all about keeping you safe, right? It thinks as long as it's convenient, easy, and familiar, even if it's slowly killing you, it wants to do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. It's not very smart, right? And then there is the mammalian part of the brain where it's highly emotionally charged. And then there's the prefrontal cortex, which is the executive thinking part of the brain that we want to learn to use a little bit more for discernment, to really connect the analytical mind with our heart and let that be in alignment. And most of us think, again, that we can logically think our way through life and health. And you think you know, but all your decisions, like I said, it's already made for you, right? And that's something that I want you to wake up to. And the brain, the reptilian brain, like I said, the oldest portion of the brain is what's running your life right now. So I just really want you to understand how your brain works so that you can hack your brain is what I teach. Because the more you can understand, not necessarily the physiology, but the way we are wired to think, then it helps you to really elevate your thinking in a way that starts to serve you, right? Here's what I mean. It's like your brain is on autopilot, right? You respond without thinking. How you show up is not really logical. You're running on autopilot. How many of you have seen a traffic light and when it's red, you stop? You don't think, oh, that's red. And so you start to analyze. Red means stop. So I must stop. Step on the right foot or the left foot. What is it? Where's the brake? You don't do that, right? It's pretty automatic. You step on the brake when you see red. Automatic conditioning. We learned it once. That synaptic pathway happens so fast, right? So it happens the same way for green, yellow, right? Stoplights, like your thoughts, will occur on their own. You have these analytical notions about things you want to produce, but all you're doing is turning up and your brain is doing the work for you, right? You do the same thing every single day too. You're operating on autopilot, right? You brush your teeth, you wake up with certain feelings, you drink your coffee, you get dressed. Everything is automated. You don't think about, oh, I should brush my teeth today. I should take a shower. I should put on deodorant. Like, there is a certain way you do things. Same sequence of events every time. And now I'm going to show you how you show up on autopilot during those days so you can get up in the morning, right? Your alarm goes off at whatever time it goes off. And you start to do all the things. In the same way, your health is also a reflection of you, right? Your brain and your health is also on brain autopilot. That's why diets are so hard. And a lot of people go on diets, but they can't change the behavior. They might do it for a week, but then they revert back to the same pattern, right? The habits are so hard to break. So whatever unconscious habits that you have, which are unconscious, which means you don't think about them, whatever unconscious habits that you have, they happen for you automatically, and you're not even aware that they're happening, right? And because your health is a reflection of you, it's what you learned. Your health is a reflection of you and your brain, and your health is getting on autopilot. So whatever unconscious habits you have, unconscious because it's not really obvious to you, okay? And you don't think about them. And whatever unconscious habits you have, they happen automatically for you, and you're not even aware of it. So how can you fix something that you're not even aware of? And that's why you need all the help, right? So let's talk about behavior versus thoughts and habits. So how does this play out in our health? Well, you can have habits of thought, commitment, self-integrity, interpretations, etc. A lot of people have difficulty with commitment to whatever it is. Observing their behavior, they don't have committed thought about what they want to be. Their beliefs about commitment does not play out in their lives. So I hear a lot of autoimmune patients, I really want to get well, but there is a difference between wanting something and being committed to something. Wanting is a very passive thing. And so when we go further, they give me all the reasons as to, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough time, my husband, this, all the reasons as to they don't want to change, because that's all they know, right? What does commitment mean, right? Most people don't really understand commitment at the subconscious level. Your unconscious paradigms are different. They already learned habits about commitment. So it's how you do anything is how you do everything. And if you are the type of person who don't necessarily commit to something and finish, and that's how you've been all your life, you're probably repeating the same thing. And you justify that decision that you made based on your conditioning, right? And then you have a lot of excuses for it. And it's not until you are able to really look in the mirror and be honest with yourself that you're able to do the thing so that you can shift and change. You don't wake up and think about commitments. We just get up and do what we do every day. Our habits repeat themselves, right? And I want you to really think about the 4-minute mile. How many of you guys know that before there was a marathon runner who broke the world record, right? Guinness Book of Records, and he broke the 4-minute mile. And ever since he did that, there's so many other people because the ceiling's lifted, jail cell is open in their limited mindset, that everybody's doing it. Same thing with Tiger Woods, right? He brought new athleticism into the golf. And now look at all the golfers, right? It's like miraculous what happens when we open the doors. I want to do the same thing for autoimmunity. The blockages that we have that holds us down by the medical establishment to tell us what we can't do. Can't see the sun, can't do this, take the medication, all the things. I want to challenge them, because how do they know? Because ultimately they don't know. I've been on both sides of the fence. I want everyone to understand that whatever you have right now in life or in your health, you have it because you're accustomed to having it. And there's more on habits here. But what you need to really understand is that habits aren't the only behavioral patterns you observe, like writing down your goals to be healthy every day or doing whatever thing that people tell you. That's not habits. Habits are automated, subconscious. So health success is really about, it comes down to training yourself and your habits. Creating or destroying your health is about being in the habit of doing it. So whatever habits you have in your health, you've learned to have many years ago. You trained yourself those habits and trained them through socialization, your parents and everything else. So you think about your autoimmunity, what went wrong, right? Because autoimmunity really is an intolerance to yourself. It's yourself rejecting you, right? It's your body telling you something's up, right? So you really, unless you really look at the psychology behind the somatic or the physical symptoms, you'll never be in alignment. And yet we focus on the physiology, waiting and hoping for it to change, for the doctors to figure it out. and they take no responsibility. And I will tell you, many people get triggered by my messaging because they're like, well, it's incurable. You're a quack. I can't heal. I live with the fact, and this is the medication. It's the only thing that works. But guess what? For those people, this program is not for you. This webinar is not for you. And that's okay. People choose and make decisions. But again, your health is a reflection of who you are, right? It goes back to that. No faulting anybody. But if we know that that's an inner game, for me, what it told me was that, oh my gosh, you mean to tell me I can change that? It was the hardest thing I've ever done. But once I did it, it was really a breaking point for me, right? So I want you to really believe that you can heal, because you can, right? Doing your habits, right? Forced execution versus mental habits to support the behavior is really what I'm talking about, right? Because I want you to understand, if I told you you have to get on an elimination diet, you have to take these supplements, you have to do this and you have to do that, but you're already self-loathing and you're already unworthy, do you think you're going to do all those things in the name of being healthy? Because we can't do who we are not. So if you hate yourself, you don't even know that you're hating yourself like I did, then you're going to always not really help yourself. You're going to just kind of dismiss it, thinking you are helping yourself, but subconsciously, you're totally sabotaging your health and blowing the concept of health. And habits sort of kind of take over. And habit battle becomes self-sabotage. Remember, the reptilian brain is automatic and the thinking part of the brain stops working, right? And I want you to understand your attitude. What is your attitude every day? Do you wake up sick, sad, hopeless, but try to force to do and change the behavior, knowing that that's what you have to do? I must do it, right? I have to do that, right? Without the programming change, right? You have to really change the hardware before you can change the software. And most of you guys are living from fear. Everything about the world today is all about fear mongering. And you tend to, when you're in a state of fear, we project our limitations. And I have many messages, like I told you, from a number of people making declaration that autoimmunity, they want to fight with me and telling me it's incurable, you're a quack, and there's nothing that I can do about it. What are you talking about? Stop giving people hope is what they tell me. And really think about their disposition, about their condition. I have an oncologist friend who says mindset of the patient is the most important in their prognoses. So whatever dispositions, attitudes, and emotions, thoughts, and inclination you have, these things ultimately become habits of thinking, and you work from them every day to create health or to sabotage your health. Really looking at it is imperative if you want to really get well, right? So what is truly your identity? Not the identity that's given to you by the world, but who are you really? Are you working from a disempowered victim or a self-empowered healer? It's two drastically different ways to live. And it's not obvious. You don't wake up and say, oh, I'm a disempowered victim. It's the thought of can't heal, but you don't tell yourself because it's subconscious. It's the belief you hold. You might do all the things, but you don't believe you're going to heal. So therefore, your body produces evidence that you won't heal. And you just get sicker and sicker and sicker is what I'm talking about. Body is sick. It's a subconscious belief. Body heals itself is the shift that we want to make, right? At the conscious level, if you have good paradigms about health, you'll be healthy. And if you don't have good paradigms about your health, then you will always struggle. And it doesn't have to be hard, you guys. We never operate outside of our self-image is what I'm trying to tell you. If our identity is, I'm not good at math, and I can't speak English really well, I can't write really well, I just can't do this or I can't do that. I'm not good with relationships. I'm not good with money, right? I can't get ahead because I'm always sick. Well, guess what? You've declared that that's what you are. So what at the conscious level, what's your paradigm, right? A strong identity is upheld by the capacity to realize your life's purpose and live it is the ultimate goal. Those who stay from their purpose and live from their purpose, or they stray away from their purpose, lose their own identity and later strive to assign meaning to their life. In fact, many of you, including myself, were given the purpose to live. I lived to make my mom happy, right? And that became a constant pattern because I myself was unworthy unless I made other people happy. People in intimate relationships refer to similar feelings of losing their identity. These examples highlight the cause of attaching one's identity to the action. Being, doing, and having does not define identity. Your ego adds a layer to the form self to keep it safe, right? While safeguarding its position in the world. And what if you fail to realize your purpose, or if your relationship dissolved, what is your identity then? This is common experience for those who endure autoimmunity, okay? And most of you have created a jail cell, which is completely open, but you're too scared to explore outside of the cell. And you have rationalized it, say, oh, but I have kids. I have to do it for the kids. It's a sacrifice. Self-betrayal is more like it. It's not a sacrifice. Your kids don't need a sacrificial mom. They need a role model to adopt to. And if your mom or dad is not happy, that's not a good parenting, you guys. That's the misconstrued information. If only I struggle. If I sleep, I made the bed, I might as well sleep on it. That's what I used to tell myself. So without realizing, you're choosing your sickness. If this triggers many of you, that's normal. And many balk at me and say, you mean it's my fault that I'm sick? No, I'm not saying that at all. Please hear me. All I'm saying is that your health is your responsibility. And I'm trying to trigger you to step into your power, right? So for example, I'm a parent. I've dieted before. I'm a career woman. I build my business. I've gone to school. I've done the work. But do I look to you to do the parenting for me? Do I look to you to diet for me? Do I look to you to create success in my business? Do I look to you to finish my schoolwork? Can't do that. But yet we do it for our health, right? If you're not being, how can you do the things you need to do? Being sick, you have to understand, is not your natural state. Health is your natural state. So ask yourself, what identity would I need to have to create optimal health? Right? Successful people's identity versus unsuccessful people. Only difference is their beliefs and self-image. It's the self-confidence. Your identity drives your life and health, right? So if your identity is, I'm sick of overweight, I grew up with sickness, I have family of autoimmunity, you're correct. Health is scarce. And I'm going to tell you right now that 80% of those listening are experiencing health challenges. Simply put, I'm telling you the truth. And I used to, because I grew up sick, but people have health problems and have awful health habits as well. And in the name of health, studying nutrition, psychology, and all the fitness stuff, right? I used to be a health bunny, right? In the name of self-sabotage and self-loathing, because I wanted to change my body. So I punished my body in the name of health, right? And I mistakenly did that, believing that I was helping them out and do stuff all day long, not realizing that they're hurting themselves. So ask yourself, what attitude, dispositions, and emotions and thinking or inclination do you have every single day? Because the chances are you never think about it. And your sense of self really refers to your perception of the cumulative characteristics that define you up to this point in time. When you know who you are and you live in this alignment, you no longer get swayed by what you ought or what other people say you should do. This is the work we do in our program so that you fully step into your authentic self and really generate the power from within so that you can become self-empowered healer. So you have to understand that you have problems not because of what you think, but because of how you think. And a problem can never be solved at the level that it was created. So you have to change. And no matter what you think, you're at capacity of being right now, right? Do you ever think to yourself, oh yeah, I'm at the top of my skill set right now. You're the best you could be. You're probably living at 10% of your potential, you guys. All I'm saying is that there's so much more that you can be coming forth, right? So here's the hierarchy being. When I talk about being, right? There's 3 levels, right? There's the thought, which is the lowest level. And then there is the consciousness. And then we have the mind. We function and we exist in 3 ways. We existed at the level of the mind, level of consciousness, and level of thoughts. Mind is like God, right? Cosmic force, universal energy, right? The whole universe is mind, and you are part of the all. It's the highest level of consciousness, right? And then there's the consciousness. We get a heart attack, right? For example, and they shock you. Why? Shock you with electricity, right? It's because we're bioelectrical. And consciousness is really electrical. We have synaptic connections and exchange happening electrically all throughout our body through our central nervous system. And this is all to do with physiology. And then the lowest level is our thoughts. We worry, wake up in the morning, we worry about our past, present, and future. We waste our energy on the things that we don't want. What happens with our kids, their grades, the mortgage payments, the health, the labs, hospital bills. This is the lowest level thought, and it cycles like a hamster's wheel. And that's what we do, wake up to every single day. And so I want you to understand that most of us aren't even conscious that we're alive. We wake up and get the cell and all the to-do things on the hamster wheel of stress. And this cycle happens over and over every single day, right? But remember, at the level of the mind, we experience that we're alive. And at the level of the consciousness, it's like we are aware of our tendencies. And at the level of the thoughts, it's like overthinking, overanalyzing, right? And just really being dense and small. So remember, I learned this from my mentoring coach, Jim Fortin. And he says, you're not your thoughts, you're the thinker of your thoughts. This changed everything for me. You're not sick. You're a human being having sick thoughts. You're not overwhelmed. You're just a human being having that experience. You're not your thoughts. You're the thinker of your thoughts. So change your thoughts. It's as simple as that. So we tend to get caught in thought storm, right? This is called the horizontal thinking, and this is what we do. Most people do is that they get into horizontal thinking. One thought leads to another 100 of other thoughts, and it's usually negative. If I don't have the money, can't pay the mortgage, my kids get out of school. You have these scenarios over and over, hundreds of other thoughts, creating this negative thinking, right? This is the high level thinking that allows for solutions, right? Utilizing, oh, I'm just having a thought. Shift your consciousness, be aware of it. And then at the level of the mind, you're able to look for the solutions, right? So how many of you guys have ever been to New York City, right? At this level, at the street, this is most practitioners and most patients, they're focused on what they see immediately. They don't even know where they're going. They hope they'll find the solution as they walk down the streets, right? But higher level thinking is looking at it from a top view. High level allows you to see the big picture. And this is what I mean is what's lacking in our field is truly integrating psychology, neuroscience, physiology, and ancient wisdom to finally be able to connect the puzzle pieces together, okay? And this is what I share in the self-healing journey. And this is what I take my patients through. Our bodies are like a tree, right? I talked about inner awakening to outer manifestation. You see the tree to the left, right? That's a sick tree, right? And so we have to look to, at the bottom, root level, what is covering the soil? What's at the root? The inner awakening, so that you can manifest whatever it is. Remember, you are who you are on the inside. You can't be who you're not, right? And so the work is in transforming into the shift. The alkaline shift is what I call it. This is the work we do together in our amazing program that's changing the lives of the patients that we serve. I really hone in on the mind mastery formula, understanding that your thoughts are an illusion, What's real is your ability to think about your thoughts. You are the thinker of your thoughts, and you move your attention to whatever else. And this is the vertical, highest level of thought because you're able to transition. Remember, you want to focus on the characteristics of being one who self-loves, right? Self-respects, has self-confidence, and has the focus, strength, resilience, choice, compassion. And you have commitment towards the thing that you want to create. And you want to really focus on these characteristics so that you can move through to really be, do, and have. This is a success model also that we focus on. Is most of you guys are thinking, if only I had, you work from the first model to the left, you think, if only I have the health, then I will do this so that I can be healthier. But that's like a failed strategy. You have to first be healthy right now and think about the characteristics of being, utilize the mind mastery method so that you can step into that power. And from that place of being self-empowered healer, then you start to go to work. And so things happen much faster, 40%, 50%, 90% reversal to have the health in your life, and you can't have doubt, right? So this is a great myth of doing. If you think I do more, I'll have more, I lived like this for too long to know it doesn't work. And remember, when you change your mind, it's then possible to become who you want to be, okay? And that's ultimately what I want for you. And for most, wanting more equals doing more, because wanting is like, okay, I want to lose weight, so I have to go on a diet. And then there's the mental block. Everything is an uphill battle. Doing more is not sustainable. Trust me. It's going to be short term, and your mind and your brain will work against you every step of the way. Okay? Being really is the genesis of creating. Okay? If you're not getting what you want in your life right now, especially in light of your health, it's because you're not being the person and possessing the qualities that you require. Okay? So I want you to be who you need to be. So here's the master question that I want to ask yourself that I really want to leave you with. What am I committed to? And who do I need to be to make it happen? Think about the characteristics, right? These are the big thoughts that I will leave you with. Number 1, brain decides for you. Number 2, subconscious and unconscious habits rule your life. Number 3, mindset is super important. Are you in victimhood or are you empowered? Number 4 is, what's your subconscious, unconscious identity that you've been programmed with? Number 5, stories and interpretation you tell yourself on the daily. Become aware of them. And then number 6 is, what's your level of thinking? Is it at the thought level? Is it at the consciousness level? Or is it level at the mind or level of the mind? Okay. And then number 7 is characteristics of being is the most important. And the most common reason why most people are stuck and plateaued in their health is that they don't know where they're going. They have no vision, no clarity for what they want. They live from what other people want for them, right? And they work from their past instead of possibility of the future. And they think that doing improves their health when in really it's a short-term fix. They lack self-integrity, right? They don't have self-trust because they don't have self-love. It's a habitual pattern. And they lack self-responsibility because they're full of resentments, blame, and victimhood without even knowing that. And they lack an understanding of commitment and values that they uphold. And they have limiting beliefs about self and self-betrayal. And they have little to no understanding of mind-body connection. And they lack the resources. And number 9, they have destructive unconscious habits. They tend to self-sabotage every day. And number 10 is incongruent unconscious identity. You're going at it from multiple directions, being swayed by the world of how they want you to be. So ask yourself, what do you want in 2021? Okay? The skills that got you up to this point won't get you to the next level. Here's another very expensive question, right? What is the price you have paid up until now and are still paying for not knowing what you learned today and not mastering it in the future, right? You really only have two choices. New life is this way. Old life is